not most of the studies. I don't know whether we are able to continuously use it for long periods without the toxicity takes place. It's now being not important, but a lot of reports which talks about the toxicity related to the laptops.
Tolvaptan has really shown there is a rate of decline in kidney volume has been achieved and slowed the rate of decline in GFR. It's a positive step towards the problem is the toxicity. And we all believe that by attacking one enzyme or one pathway, you can achieve the success with regard to cyst volume or GFR reduction. We all know that there are several pathways, cyclic AMP, we have mTOR pathways, and I think future the trials will be combining all these drugs and attack as a single thing. Then only you will achieve the success in ADPKD, because too many pathways are there, and concentrating on one pathway like cyclic AMP may not yield the fruit. And in fact, I am aware of a study with sirolimus. Both of them failed because of toxicities, and they ultimately found that sirolimus intracystic volume was very, very low. So now trials are going on. Sirolimus combined with folic acid so that it can easily enter the cyst and cause favorable response. So sirolimus with folic acid combination is being tried, and the ultimate thing is combining all the 3 or 4 pathways involved. That will only ultimately yield the success.
And regarding the C3 glomerulonephritis, I think this clinical entity is very much emerging. Almost all of us might have seen this now. It's on the rise. I don't know whether we were missing it in the past, or is it a kind of due to some factors it is emerging as a new entity. Right now we ourselves in our department have a handful of cases, and this stresses the importance of electron microscopic analysis of our kidney biopsy specimens. Without that, I think our interpretation is not complete. And the recently there was, pardon me? Yes, we are able to, not routinely, where we suspect a classical DPGN pattern in light microscopy or MPGN pattern in light microscopy, only C3C. No, I mean, there is no, clinically we think in terms of post-infectious glomerulonephritis, but no immunoglobulin deposits. So if you subject the specimen for electron microscopy, then only you will be able to diagnose. There are 2 important practical implications. Number one, there is no meaning in pushing very aggressive immunotherapy because the response is very poor. Number one. And number 2 is that, as she rightly pointed out, the recurrence of the disease post-transplant. We have to keep that in mind when you plan a transplant. And more disease entities which are related to abnormalities in the alternate complement pathway are emerging.
We also have presented series of 6 patients with C3 glomerulonephritis in the last pre-conference pathology workshop 2020.
And adding on to the complexity, the streptococcal infection itself can precipitate C3 glomerulonephritis. Your ASO titer will be high. You will be thinking a DPGN pattern. You might think that it is VIGN only, but only pointed to ponder is why only C3C. The classical ASO titer is high, there is a skin infection, a DPGN pattern, but only C3C immunofluorescence. Then we came across it is C3C. Then we referred the literature in the recent NEFSAP. There is a report, anecdotal report of streptococcal infection can precipitate, by itself can precipitate C3 glomerulonephritis.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. I request Dr. Edwin Fernando to come over the dais and present commentary to the chairpersons, Dr. R. Srinivas and Dr. Satish. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again. Thank you, everyone. Before we move on to the next session, a couple of announcements to be made. Those who presented the posters, they requested to collect the certificates from the audiovisual desk. The quiz would start at 10 o'clock instead of the scheduled time at 10.
For the last 2 days, many topics covered AKA, various definitions, various modalities of treatment. Still, it is not over. Right now, we are having this novel treatment of stem cell AKA. This topic is going to be delivered by Dr. Rajesh Nayak, Professor of Department of Nephrology, Ahmedabad. He did a lot of presentations in various national and international conferences. I welcome Professor Dr. Rajesh.
But also let me thank the organizers for this wonderful opportunity to talk about it. Stem cells have been hailed for the potential to revolutionize the future of medicine. And it has generated more interest than any other field. As regard to excitement, controversy, ethical scrutiny, and reform. Why stem cells for PK? We know that the pathophysiology of PK is very complex and predominantly use three pathophysiological components: tubular injury, vascular cell damage, and inflammation. Yesterday we heard from Professor Jaykumar that there is a likelihood of a causal relationship between AKI and QTCK. Of course, that can be mitigated if AKI levels faster. That means faster level from AKI probably low CKD in the future. Now let us brush over basics. What is a stem cell? A stem cell is a biological cell present in all cell organisms, which can replicate itself or self-renew over a period of time throughout the life of the host. Also, it can differentiate into many specialized cell types, in the muscle, the cardiac tissue, the blood cells, so on and so forth. So these are the two principal features of stem cells. Broadly, we can divide the stem cells into mature stem cells, otherwise called the adult stem cells, and early stem cells, like embryonic stem cells. The adult stem cells are actually represented by mature body tissues. They are primarily multipotency means they can be very limited cell types. That means they are committed to a specific niche. So they can form only those types of cells. Whereas the embryonic stem cells, you see on the right side, it's subject to blastocyst, on the inner cell mass of blastocyst. It's pluripotent, that means it can be used for almost all cell types, pertaining to three germinates. And that's the difference between adult stem cells and early embryonic stem cells. That's the blastocyst here, containing pluripotent, which is the main source of embryonic cells, which has created a lot of hue and cry from the ethical standpoint. Today I am discussing something regarding adult stem cells, which are primarily tissue specific, which has a significant promise in the next time. We know that there are certain physiological and laboratory processes happening. What is the AKI levels? The completion or the completeness of the recovery is dependent upon the intensity of the appropriate removal of damaged cells. There is dampening of the inflammatory cytokines. There is decrease in the ratio molecule expression, and there is differentiation and proliferation of the tubular cells, which ultimately. Also, we know that there are circulating stem cells, predominantly mesenchymal stem cells, and to some extent metabolic stem cells, and endothelial cells, which also can contribute to that. Unfortunately, as of now, we know that kidney intrinsic stem cells, which are there in the background, have not been confirmed to support the renal process. So that means circulating stem cells has a role in the renal, and probably the intrinsic kidney stem cells have probably the role in the vaccine. So it is always reasonable to conclude that therapeutic boosting of the stem cell delivery to the injured organ, here AKI may improve the course. And also now we know that the transdifferentiation of the stem cells in the tissue is probably not happening. AKI is predominantly parallel and endogenous formation of myotic nucleus from the mesenchymal cells, rather than transdifferentiation into the specific cell type. So that means the stem cells, especially mesenchymal stem cells, holds promise in this area. Bone marrow is a good source of stem cells. There are two: hematopoietic stem cell and second is stromal stem cell. Stromal stem cell is mesenchymal stem cell. What are the features of mesenchymal stem cell? The ISCP is proposed as the set of standards. It should be adenoplastic and it has a fibroblast like morphology. The two principal or basic characteristic of a mesenchymal stem cell. That's appearance of mesenchymal stem cell on phase contrast microscopy. Cell body elongates the process and allows it to go on the right side. Now, how do you isolate mesenchymal stem cells for various therapeutic cases? It's very simple. You know what is really basic. Body also is not much. Body is also not much. If you centrifuge it, isolate the mononuclear cells, and the mononuclear cell fractions passed through plastic dishes. So as I told you right now, MSC and there is a plastic cells, and this can be expanded in branching. So probably it is less cumbersome compared to other embryonic stem cells. This is a landmark study done in 2004 by Moradi, which is published in JAST 2004. Bone marrow derived mesenchymal stem cells can be used in murine models to promote renal experimental model here was cisplatin-induced AKA in mice. Let us see what they are. Cisplatin was injected subcutaneously into the mice. 24 hours later, bone marrow derived mesenchymal stem cells of the mice were injected into the chain as shown here. 4 days later, the renal function and restored both were assessed. And you can see here that the blood urea level was significantly less in the stem stimulated group compared to the cisplatin group. The renal histology was assessed with objective scoring of CAS, tubular cell loss, and tubular cadaveric. They have shown that the renal histology also is markedly better in the stem cell retinal group. This has probably stimulated further research in this field. The same group has shown that bone marrow derived mesenchymal cells probably act via vasoactive factors like growth factors, not probably because of like plant differentiation. Here we can see that the proximal tubular epithelial cell proliferation, which is blocked by cisplatin, here, as you see in the red bar, can be lowered to a significant extent with trait stem cells. That's a yellow bar. If you block IGF-1 from the mesenchymal stem cell, that beneficial effect is lost. So that means probably the action is predominantly due to through growth factors and IGF-1 being one. The same observation was noticed while the percentage of haploid cells were analyzed. Well, what's the effect of human bone marrow mesenchymal cells on the peritubular categories? These are immunodeficient mice with cisplatin-induced AKA. You see the control here. This is the cisplatin-induced group. This is the vascular epithelium pattern staying. We compare the epithelium here and here. The capillary movement of the cisplatin-induced group significantly collapsed. Once you treat it with the mesenchymal stem cells, the epithelium probably the epithelium is burst. That means anatomically also we can show that the mesenchymal stem cells are protected from vascular epithelial pores. So let us conclude here that once you treat the patient with nucleating mesenchymal stem cells, it takes care of the inflammation by dampening the inflammatory response. It has this beneficial tubular cell damage and reduces the vascular endothelial dysfunction also. So it's a multi-pronged approach by the stem cells. Now what happens when the mesenchymal stem cells reach the lung and it's delivered to circulation? There are certain microvesicles or exosomes which are detached from the MSC, which is filtered through the glomerulus into the mucoid space, which brings microvesicles which are taken out by the proximal tubular cells. And this produces lateral transfer of RNA and promote repair. Whereas the endocrine actions and the paracrine actions are predominantly through the vasolateral side, that means through the peritubular category side. The fourth one is the crosstalk between the inflammatory cell, the stem cell, and the injured tubular cell, where they beneficially re-express the gene profile so that the apoptotic mode is switched to an anti-apoptotic or anti-inflammatory These are the main areas of action in the kidney by circulating mesenchymal stem cells. Now, what happens if you inject mesenchymal stem cells into circulation? It has been shown that mesenchymal stem cells home to the site of inflammation. If there is AKI, it homes to the site to the kidney. And how this happens and how the final common pathway evolves. Once there is inflammation, there is upregulation of the inflammatory cytokines. Let us see how this happens. That's a ventricular capillary field and injured tubular cells here. The circulating mesenchymal stem cells gets attached to various vascular tissue molecules which are expressed, which are upregulated in inflammatory in process of inflammation. They get attached to the vascular tissue molecules and transmigrate across the epithelium, where they express two important receptors, CXCR4 and CD44. Stromal cell-derived factor 1, SDF1. This is one of the factors which is upregulated in the hypoxic renal interstitium when there is inflammation. Second thing is hyaluronic acid. So the two factors which have been extensively studied, which attach to the respective receptors on mesenchymal stem cells, SDF1 and hyaluronic acid. What happens next? This activates the mesenchymal stem cells. That's an activated mesenchymal stem cell for you with the attached SDF1 and the hyaluronic acid. Release vasoactive factors, growth factors, interleukin 4, 10, opposite growth factor active, and vascular glucose. To name a few, there are a lot many more, which are anti-inflammatory, which are mitogenic, anti-apoptotic, and pro-angiogenic, and ultimately produce resolution of tissue injury and promote regeneration. It's very surprising to know that the studies have shown that the mesenchymal stem cells which home to the site of inflammation is not seen in that site 72 hours after the incident. It means it is washed off once the vascular flow is restored. That again points to the fact that the action is predominantly paracrine mechanisms. What advantages of this? Most important is hypoimmunogenic. They don't expose the MSC class molecules. They don't expose the host-to-barrier molecules. No glucokinase. So, and is safely used in allergenic protocols. Isolation, as I told earlier, is less troublesome, but it is fairly easy and can be expanded to culture. Concerns, if you give IV, it will produce a toxin. Is it fibrogenic? Is it glucogenic? As of now, studies have shown that probably the last two concerns are not big touch, but still we need more studies for further information. It's an article published in Nature in December 2012. Flora Toggle and Westerfield, their group, they are pioneers in stem cell research as well as mesenchymal cells are concerned. They conducted a phase 1 clinical trial in humans. For the first time, using allogenic disease, using a dose escalation protocol. The study participants were those who are at high risk of AKI after undergoing on-pump cardiac surgery and the CVD of as discussed yesterday. CVD is one insult which can be closely monitored, and we know that the insult is going to happen. So it's fairly easy to follow the patient following the insult. 16 patients getting on-pump cardiac surgery who were at high risk of post-operative AKI due to CKD, stages 1 to 4, diabetes, elderly, CCF, COPD, other risk factors which were included. CPP type 1 and 2. So that was the group. MSCs from healthy donors were cultured and released tested. And once patients were off pump and hemodynamically stable, the study participants were infused a low, intermediate, and then high, a dose escalating fashion of allogenic disease through a family catheter in the distal thoracic tract. That's the study design. The dose escalation protocol took 5 patients each received a critical dose of allogenic disease. The injection was done into the suprarenal the Farang road. The historical taste controls has shown that there is a 20% possibility, the same person group, there is a 20% possibility of AKA historical control. It's a facial fact, though. The primary objective is as to the safety and feasibility, especially the absence of serious consequences. The secondary objective is to assess the preliminary phase in comparison to well-matched historical case controls. So they found that MSCs, the aluminum MSCs, is safe, probably of its production of heat function, because the historical case controls, there was 20% chance of AKA, which was not there in the study group, and there was a 40% reduction in the length, the cost of the stake and need for reaction. Of course, these are very early questions, and definitely we will need confirmation in adequately powered RCT, which is double blind and properly based on blind. So definitely we will have more studies to make drastic measures. So these are the currently the recruiting trials for technology. The first one which I already discussed. There are a few ongoing trials undergoing the transplantation scenario. There's one more study which is going on to the phase 2 trial. The Wednesday group is doing. AKA in cisplatin-induced AKA exceptions. That's also another phase 1 trial which is currently underway. Embryonic stem cells, as far as we know, has not taken off well in the AKA scenario. AKA in stem cells also, nobody has tried a detailed protocol analysis as to what we done in AKA in stem cells. So we know that we are exposed to a lot of information, a whole lot of information regarding stem cells, the characteristics, the efficacy, safety concerns, ethical issues, controversy, and whatnot. So what to do here? We are slightly perplexed. I would like to end with a cautionary tale here. This most of you have seen in the emails. A California woman who did stem cell therapy and found that she couldn't open the eyes properly. There was a clicking sound when opening the eyes. She consulted her doctor and found that there was something inside the eyes around the iris. And the doctor spoke out bones, which is probably the stem cells which is got to the force. So there is still a significant gap between scientific knowledge and translation to clinical practice. So we have a lot of private stem cell clinics mushrooming all over the world, including India. That has to be heard. That is a message. What is happening in the Indian state? I understand that there are a lot of stem cell research happening in most institutes. To my knowledge, there is no ongoing trials in AKA. Most of the trials are revolving around hematopoietic stem cell transplant. What are the ICMR guidelines? The use of stem cells for therapeutic purposes has been, there is no good indication for therapy as part of routine practice other than bone marrow transplantation. Any other stem cell therapy other than bone marrow shall be treated and all the experimental trials shall be registered with the National Schematic for Stem Cell Research. That is the guideline issued by ICMR in 2012. So, we have to wait. We need more trials. Definitely, the mesenchymal stem cells holds promise, but we require